All right, here we go. You're listening to the 54665, all things rural economic development, all things entrepreneur, and all things Viroqua. This morning, we have a very special guest, the mayor of Viroqua, and my friend Karen. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Karen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Or good afternoon to those of you who are listening.
Yeah, good,
in the afternoon.
Good podcast, whatever time it is for you.
In the comfort of your schedule.
Right.
Hey, everything's good this morning. I didn't like stepping on ice when I came out this morning again. I thought that was over, but
right.
It also,
we're almost there.
We're almost there. We're so close. I'm looking at these chamber bash and all these other things that remind me of summer, farmers market, all those fun things coming up. I'm just so excited.
Yep.
I love Viroqua in the spring,
yeah.
summer. Well,
me too.
All the time, but
yeah, pretty much all the time. This winter has been a little bit more to take for all of us.
We're almost there.
Usual.
We did it.
Yes. Yes. So how did you, this wasn't one of the questions that I provided to you, so I'm already throwing in a little bit of a softball here, or a hard ball. What do you call that?
Let's see. Let's hear the question.
Anyway, so you're the mayor.
Yeah.
When did you decide that you were interested in being the mayor? It has to have been a pretty huge decision.
It was a long time ago. Probably shortly after high school. I've always had a passion about Viroqua since moving here. Halfway through my junior year, I really loved Viroqua, and just wanted to be part of what makes Viroqua happen. Shortly after making that decision, though, I moved to California, to San Francisco for 8 years, and in the 8 years decided to become a merchant marine and sail around the world for 17 years.
Which is fascinating. Like,
yeah,
that has to have been a pretty amazing gig.
It was. It was amazing, and it was most wonderful and horrible experience. It was all amazing and wrapped up into a lot of stress and a lot of time away. And, I lived in different regions of the country, but I kept coming back. I would move back to Viroqua and then get I found this sweet job in Seattle sailing to Alaska. So I moved there for a while, and then I would come back to Viroqua. And I always knew that this was going to be where I ended up for long term. So when I met my husband, long before he was my husband, he's from Minneapolis. And I said, I don't know where this is going, meaning our relationship, but I know where I'm not going, and it's out of Viroqua. And so when I made the decision a couple years ago that I was going to retire from the Merchant Marines, that's it. Now's my time. I'm going to really go and pursue this. I had the opportunity to serve on the county board for a while, and that just kind of even solidified my interest. But even when I was appointed to the county board, I made it very clear that I would only finish the term that I was appointed to, and that it was city government that I was really interested in. So
yeah,
here I am.
That's super cool. Well, and I can only imagine some of the most beautiful places that you traveled during your time as a merchant marine. And it's really amazing that none of them quite compared to coming to Viroqua. So
yeah, they always had their unique parts that made you really appreciate that you were there. But it was the flying into La Crosse and seeing the driftless region. There was just nothing that would compare.
Yeah, that is so cool. So Viroqua is known throughout the region and also the state as being very friendly to entrepreneurs. Can you tell us about the business environment in Viroqua and in Vernon County, for that matter, from your perspective, and also from the perspective of, city development and what a mayor would consider to be important?
Well, I think for me personally, what I consider most important is just the opportunities that businesses have here. How about a unique situation for us to have the pop-up shop where someone can have this idea that they want to open this business, but they're just they're not ready to make that commitment. It's just, what better opportunity for them to give it a go and see what happens. And that's not something that you find everywhere. And I think that's really unique. So kudos to you and the chamber.
Thank you.
It's like the perfect opportunity. But I think that also is just an indication of what Viroqua is like. We we have diverse ideas, and we try to offer as much as we can as far as assistance and excuse me, for people that come in with great ideas. I mean, I travel for my other job a lot around the state, and I go to a lot of these small rural communities, and you're going to find your hardware stores, and you're going to find your cafes, and but the diversity of even shops on our main street, you know, Utopia is really, you know, and the Mac shop, but then Blue Dog bicycles, and, you know, there's all these unique, and the yoga studios. It's not something that, and then our co-op too, that's a like gem of Viroqua. And I think that's when I envision Viroqua, and what I would hope for any rural community, is to just have that diversity. And what can the city do to bring that in, you know, just to really support that. Yep.
Well, and I think the evidence of the support from the city for the program becomes more and more clear as the program continues to grow and expand. And so I think without the help of the city of Viroqua and previous administrators, and now our current administrator as well, and the building inspector and all of the other people that are involved, some of these things would not be possible, because we are starting to get into territory where we're using much less ideal buildings, or buildings that have, you know, major ADA issues and some other things. So that relationship and partnership will continue to be incredibly important.
Well, and that's something that is exciting right now. I mean, nothing against what has happened in the past, because that's what got us to where we are. Right. But I think just the council right now, and our new administrator is, I mean, I'm really excited about what's going to happen with Nate at that desk. He's just ready to go. Like, he really wants to go out there and see, how do we get businesses in here, and how can we support? And, you know, I'd love to see young professionals see Viroqua as that's where their final destination would be, and raise families here. Yep. So of course, you know, we want the businesses to come in. We need to develop the housing for them to live as well, because we need to have more people in the town to support the businesses that come in. And it's all a big picture. But I think the current vibe in City Hall is excitement, and just trying to find, how do we make this work for everybody? Yeah.
What is your philosophy as a leader?
That's a good one. I think the best thing that I can bring to my position as the mayor is just to listen. And that's really what I've been trying to do the most, being transparent in where I want the city to go, but also to really listen to anybody who wants to come to me and talk about how they feel about where Viroqua's at, where are we going. And I hear every side of it.
I'm sure.
I think people are starting to recognize the fact that I do want to hear it, and I do want to know, from the people who have lived here their whole lives to the people who are trying to come in, and everybody in between. And for me to get that from the people, and then to pass it on to our really outstanding team of everybody that works to make all that happen. So transparency is huge. I'm, you know, trying to be the mayor that's out there in the community. And I think that was really a key to becoming mayor, is because I already was doing that. I was already going to the events and volunteering and getting involved, and people recognized that I had a passion for this community. And so to just continue that, but in the role that I am now, where I want to hear it, you know, and we now do our best to live stream city council meetings so that people know what's really happening, and there's not that speculation of what is the city, you know, trying to do, and there's always, that's still going to continue. That's just part of life.
But that's a really fantastic piece of things. I've watched some council meetings, you know, on my laptop with my bowl of popcorn before.
When you just can't fall asleep at night, and you finished your book, and so,
yeah, exactly.
No, but it's been really helpful, and to be able to have opportunities like this, and you know, go on the radio, and people can hear my voice, and just be encouraged that the leadership is now really, not now, I mean, they've been concerned, but just to be a good listener and be there, show up.
I think the accessibility is a really important piece of things. You're also holding office hours.
Not really.
No.
That was something that I had originally considered, having set office hours, but then I was getting more and more phone calls from people and emails and requests to meet with them and sit down with them. And I realized that I am very fortunate in my full-time job is I have a flexible schedule. And so I have that ability when somebody calls and says, I want to sit down and talk to you about something, that I can say, well, what works for you? And I can meet you at Kickapoo Coffee, or I can, you can come to City Hall. But if it's just the flexibility of coming to them is really what I decided was the more important route to go. And it's worked well so far.
That's really great. We have a lot of different people who are interested in starting businesses. So a large portion of our audience are people who are really getting some insight and some knowledge from some people who have boots on the ground and are doing the work and have just opened their businesses and just opened that first business checking account. What are some of the things to keep in mind from a city of Viroqua level or a municipal level, just in general, for people who are opening a new business? What can you speak a little bit to signage, zoning, historic districts? I'm just going to go ahead and list all of these. ADA laws, sidewalk maintenance. It seems like these are things that people who are new to business or new to renting a business in a business district, or owning a business in a district, how do they be sure that they're in compliance with all of these things? What are the best resources to make sure that they're doing everything appropriately?
Well, I think it's interesting that you say that these are businesses that are already open. And so I'm kind of assuming that if they're already open and they have a spot on Main Street, that they've gone through the zoning and the signage. But that's, the signage is also something that the city's actively working on right now, rewriting the ordinance and redeveloping the board that.
Can you tell me, and can you tell the listeners too, why is there a signage ordinance? Why is that important? I think people might not understand what that means.
Well, I think the most important issue of that is that we have a vision of the city government has a vision of what we want to maintain the aesthetics of Viroqua to be. And for us to keep what we believe should be the face of Viroqua, there are regulations. We don't want Viroqua to turn into big lighted electronic billboards or flashing signs. And the ordinance, you can't have that, because we're really interested in keeping. One of the great things about Viroqua is we have these new businesses, but we really keep the history of Viroqua and that feel of a rural downtown while still offering all the great things of being here. And so it's just to be able to keep an eye on things, so we just don't have what some bigger cities would be distracting, and so that's really where that's at. But as far as the other things, we have a city website where you can go and see the ordinances, which is somewhat difficult to navigate sometimes and get through all that. And if you're not an ordinance geek like myself, who really enjoys reading those things, it might be hard to follow. So, our staff at City Hall is really great. Just call there and let them know this is what I need to know, and they most likely will be able to just rattle it off to you, but also will be able to offer you the assistance of what you need to know.
When we always try to catch some of the new businesses from the Chamber Main Street perspective, just to let them know we're here to help you navigate some of these things, because they are confusing and it's not something that necessarily comes naturally to people. Reading ordinances, understanding historic districts and some of the things that go with all of those elements of business ownership. What happens if somebody is not in compliance and they were not aware that they're not in compliance? How is that handled by the municipality?
As easily as possible. I mean, we really try not to be ordinance Nazis out there. Of
Mhm.
course, we want everybody to be in compliance,
Sure.
but when there's a violation, usually Chad, our permit guy, and our inspector goes in and he'll say, he'll let them know that this is what needs to be fixed on, but gives plenty of time. We're always talking about as long as there's a progression being made, as long as there's an effort being put forth. It's starting a business is a lot, and a lot of it, you have these great ideas and you could be successful, but just don't have the idea of everything that goes into it. And that's one thing that the city really wants, going forward, to make sure that we are fully accessible and that new businesses know that we will assist them in any way we can to get a solid business plan on their feet and going and bringing that to Viroqua. So I would say our city hall, our city administrator, city clerk, everybody was just call there and they'll, we're looking for an opportunity to help you. And and then we'll probably send them to you because you're the one that's doing the really good stuff over there. Not that we're not doing good stuff, but it's
all part of being a team.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things that helps create success in this community is teamwork.
Exactly.
What does the city of Viroqua offer specifically for small businesses? So the listeners have heard me, and they've also heard Luke talk about all of the different things that we offer on a chamber level. The city of Viroqua, are there grants available? Is the revolving loan fund still happening? Like, what are some of the things happening at the city of Viroqua? Let's say someone needs a loan or some assistance in the TIF district, for example. How does that work?
How that works is you call and talk to our city administrator.
Okay.
That is a fully loaded question. There's so many aspects of that. And, I've been sitting in the mayor's seat for almost a year now, and I still feel like I'm constantly learning what the TIF district offers and how all that is. And, but there is a lot that we, do try to do, and revolving loans and TIF assistance and all that stuff. But I don't know that I could even scratch the surface of that question in the amount of time that we have. Right. So I would say call City Hall, talk to the city administrator.
But so there are some things that are available for people who are coming in and restoring a building,
right,
or who are looking to do demo or some kind of large project.
Right. And that's the one thing, we are just next month starting our new comprehensive plan for the city. And what is our vision going forward for the next 10, 20 years? And one of the biggest things that I really want to bring home is assistance to not just businesses, but residents coming into town, and not wait for people to come to us, but really be, which of course will help you if you do, but really be out there and vocal. And I would love to see the city have a website where people will be able to come and click on a link where they can get that information of what if I want to come to the city, and that, that's a dream of mine, and it all costs money and it's down the road, but it's something that we really want to be able to move towards.
Well, it's amazing how quickly websites and styles of websites come in and out of fashion. So it's challenging to keep up with all of that and all of the newer and greater demands on technology.
Exactly. And it's, it costs money, it takes time, but I would love to see an opportunity where someone is sitting in California and decides that they're wanting to move to the Driftless region, and they've heard about this great town called Viroqua, and they go to our website and there's a link of frequently asked questions. And what can we do for you?
Yep.
Who do you call? And just be able, so that's really the long-term goal. Those answers are there right now by calling city. Just talk to Nate.
Yeah.
Sorry, Nate. I know.
We have to make sure Nate is listening to the podcast too. Right. He'll love all these different shout outs here, I'm sure. How can small businesses be involved in decision making in a municipality? How is their voice best heard? I think there are many business owners, and I don't want to start lumping people into categories, but who they're so busy with their day to day and they're running their business and they're doing the best that they can, just like all of us are. Maybe they don't have time to make meetings. Maybe they don't have time necessarily to submit letters about some of their feedback about whatever it may be, something that impacts their business, whether it's parking, snow removal, ordinances about what signage can be on sidewalks, for example. The chamber, we do everything that we can to make sure that we're advocating for businesses with our open relationship with the city. But how can some of these small businesses feel empowered and part of the decision-making process at the city of Viroqua?
I would love to hear from them. Even if, definitely keep an eye on the agendas that are coming up. We post them as soon as we can get them all together, definitely by the week Friday before the meeting. So if there's something that's coming up that you definitely know is on the agenda and is going to be a discussion, reach out to your city council members or reach out to me. And if I hear something that we didn't think of or we didn't know was on the table, we will certainly seek out more information from the business owners. And even though I personally, mayor is technically a part-time job, which has turned into a lot more than that. But
yes, indeed,
it's been great. And I'm, certainly love that part of it. But, I could certainly point that information in the right direction and forward that on. And we want to hear from people, and council really, when we go into discussions about developing an area, or like the Rock Avenue project that the city's been talking about for a really long time, we had listening sessions and we, had focus groups, and we do that. Last night we had a public hearing on a street project that's coming up, and we're doing everything we can to let people, businesses, everybody come to us and just let us know what it is they need and what is their concerns. We certainly can't make everybody happy, and we certainly can't answer everything, but I just want everybody to know that we want to hear it. It's hard to be a leader and make decisions for an entire city without knowing what the needs of the people are. Right. So I would just say, reach out to me and, mayor, MAYOR at Viroqua-Wisconsin.com. So
that's very bold to put your email
it
out
is.
there.
And, I know that this podcast goes to everybody.
Land.
Yeah. And that's, I thought about that because not only do I want to hear from people in Viroqua, but I want to hear what's working for other communities too. And ask, people from who knows where, saying, but what are you doing about this? Or I hear that Viroqua has that, and what's working. And for Viroqua to be successful, it's also important for people to know who we are. And I feel like that's a really big part of my job right now, is putting Viroqua on the map and letting people know who we are and getting our voice out there. And, you do a really good job of that too. And I've really enjoyed our time, like trying to, because when we go places and people say, oh, you're from Viroqua,
it feels good.
It feels good. And people, I like to think that that's always a positive thing. I'm like, oh, Viroqua, and so that's my hope, is to hear from people and just know what's working.
Yeah, that's super great. What are some of your goals for Viroqua presently and 5 years from now?
Development of housing. We're right now waiting to hear on a really huge economic development grant. And collaboration. I really want to work in collaboration with the county too, and just make sure that what we're doing also fits with what with what they're doing. Right. And for us to, be able to grow as a city, we need to have more land, and we need to be able to work with who's surrounding us, and that involves the county. And historically, there's been not just our county and county seat, but there's always a little territory of like, it's the county and it's the city, and they're not one. And I really want to foster an environment where we are a team and we are looking at what's best for everybody.
Right.
And that's my goal right now. And in the future, it's just, what steps do we have to take to get us to that point of building a stronger team, a team with the city, with the chamber, the county, and whoever wants to come in, business owners. I would love to see young professionals, like I said, come here, raise their families here. That's really, what do we have to do to accomplish that goal? And, there's so many outdoor things for the community. I would love to see the city be able to implement, just expand our parks and expand. If a dream would be to have an outdoor pool, and these things all take money and they all take time and collaboration. And that's my goal. Although, I'm only going to be here for, I can only get so much done. But if I can just set that groundwork and that culture of the city to be carried on for however many times I get to come back and do this job. But it's just a culture that I'm not the one doing the legwork. I'm not the one with the boots on the ground. I'm the one getting all the ideas and passing them on. And that, we want to implement that.
So what does success look like for you? When you get to a point where, maybe it's the next election, maybe you decide you're going to be working on something else for whatever it may be. What does success look like so that you can look back and say, we did it?
I think it goes back to the culture. We've been Viroqua was really great, but I think we're behind on where we could be as far as our accessibility, our transparency, taking the buildings, offering the diversity. If we could have more diversity in Viroqua, both culturally, businesses, everything that we could bring in would be success for me. Viroqua has historically had a us versus them, the natives versus the new people. And it's just, that's always bothered me because I graduated here, but I associate and I identify with everybody, and we're getting there. But if I could leave City Hall and feel like we have a city now where we're just a community and a stronger community. We already are, but when we have a stronger community and those things don't matter anymore, we're just supporting each other. That to me is success.
Yeah, I love that. That's beautiful. Have you ever read The Politics of Resentment? It's a book. It is about people in an area who it's focused on Pepin, which has a lot of similarities to Viroqua, particularly some of the same challenges between the population who has lived there for many, many years and some of the new people who are coming with new ideas and new thoughts just about how to do lots of things. And so it's a fascinating read because for many years, I thought that what was happening in Viroqua was relatively unique to our situation here with some of the diversity in terms of locations that people were coming from versus some of the people who had lived here for many, many years. And it's really not unique, and it's happening all over the state and all over the country. And so it's a fascinating book. If you have time, check that out.
In my spare time.
Yeah. In between all of these meetings and other things. So who is someone in leadership that you admire and why?
That is a really hard question.
I know.
Thanks for that. So early.
People ask me those questions all the time, and it is hard.
I have this fascination right now with the history of the Supreme Court. I really like to dig into politics, and I'm kind of I like meetings. I like not just the politics that you see on TV, but how it really works. Who's making the laws and how do we change the laws, and how does your voice make a difference? So I'd have to say right now, Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Sure.
Excuse me, is huge. Yeah. Because she stepped up and took a stand when it was not acceptable to do that. And to be a woman, this tiny little woman who is this huge force, and to just take on the entire legal system and to continue to be so is, to me, amazing. She has courage, and she found somewhere tapped into that courage to stand up and make a difference. And And to me, that's really inspiring. And the fact that she's still doing it.
And she's still alive.
She's still alive. You haven't killed her. I mean, to me, that's just, you know, the more I learn about where she came from and just to take that courage and run with it, it's fascinating because I'm terrified of speaking in public and being like, for, you know,
you
so
do a fine job though,
you know, but it's like, it takes courage to stand up and say, we're going to do things differently now. And, you know, Viroqua doesn't, of course, face the same challenges as the Supreme Court, but we have challenges that we need to face. And we have a culture that, in my opinion, needs to change. And for us to really do that, it takes someone who's willing to sacrifice the time and just comfort to get in there and do that. And I will never be a RBG, but that's, to me, really somebody that I look at, wow, look at what that one person was to be able to make that much difference. And then also too, I think for me, the quiet leaders, you know, the ones who are just sitting in the back, listening and shaking their heads going, we can do that. And then making it happen. Right. You can say anything, but unless you're walking the walk, you're you know, it's right. It doesn't really mean anything. So, and that, I mean, I could just go on forever about people personally who have been that for me, that weren't, you know, aren't celebrities or political leaders, but just quiet support and service, you know, to others is amazing. And that's my leaders right there.
Yeah, that's very cool. Anything you want to ask me? We've never done this before in the podcast, so here we go.
I didn't know that I was going to get to ask you questions. Whoa. What's your most exciting thing that you have coming up for the city?
You know, I'm really excited about the fact that we are going to be offering co-starters again. So for people that don't know what co-starters is, it's a 9-week entrepreneurial boot camp. So it's you take all of the people who are in the class from their idea for their business all the way through their business plan. And at the end, they have a business plan that they're able to use and move forward on. So we bring in different experts, people who are business owners already, so they can talk about some of the experiences, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and work with these students as they move toward recognizing their dream. So I think that's one of my favorite things that happens. And because of grant funding, we've been able to do that 3 years in a row now. 4 actually. So
good job.
Yeah, it's good stuff. So I'm really excited about that. It's always fun to see who is interested in coming in, and we get a large mix of young people and retirees too, who are finally realizing their dream. So it's very cool.
Fantastic. Having the young, that's one thing I want the city to focus on too. I would love at some point when we get settled in with our plans going forward to just create an environment where we could even have a junior council where we take young people and say, this is what the city needs to figure out. You all have your council and figure out, you know, what you what you want to do, and then bring it to us. And because they're the future, you know, I mean, someday we're not all going to be sitting in that room, and they're going to have to step up. And if we can foster that excitement and just that encouragement of their voice does matter, even though you might not be old enough to vote yet, you're going to be someday, and you should go into it knowing what you're doing. And that's important. And to just, like the co-starters say, this is what you can do. If this is your dream, we can make it happen together. It's exciting.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Awesome.
Anything else?
No, just thanks for all the work you guys do.
Yeah, thanks for all the work that you do.
I think we're going to have a really fun year going forward and just developing things. And
yeah, I think so too.
You know, it's great. It's always fun to hear what's coming next.
Absolutely. That's what makes it all worthwhile.
Yay, Viroqua.
Yay,
54665.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.